Hi everyone, Matthew Donovan here, and this is the October update. I know it's into December now. I've been super busy with marking, TAing, everything with school and getting involved and all of that. So I'm behind on the updates, but I have a bit of time now in between my exams, so here we go. So the first update is languages. So languages during the month of October, still working on Hebrew, but not a lot of progress. I know every single month seems to have a focus or a theme, and October's was definitely on, there was a lot of co-op interviews at the start of the month, and then there was also some marking, midterm marking for the business exam, and then also moving into November, there's a lot of marking as well. So I think both October and November were both focused on being involved, doing that marking, and also everything else that comes along with that. So while I was working on Hebrew, I wasn't able to put in as much time as I would have liked towards that. That being said, one of the things that I was doing or was hoping to do was upload some regular videos to really record my progress in Hebrew. And I know initially it was just a matter of I couldn't even read the script. So I had no idea what was going on. But now, at least at the end of October, I was making a lot of progress just on the script, and I was becoming much more familiar with the different letters and what those letters, what the sounds were. With that in mind, Hebrew is a unique language, and I don't want to say it doesn't have vowels, but it doesn't have a lot of those sounds or symbols to represent the sounds, or I guess letters to represent vowel-like sounds in English, for example. They just sort of fit in with the letters. So as an example, shalom, which means hi or bye or peace, in Hebrew is just spelled with 4 characters. And I guess the sounds are sh, l, m. And you put that together and you get shalom. But that shalom, the isn't in those letters, right? The letters are sh, l, m. So it's that matter of filling in the tones and filling in those vowel-like sounds, but this is just how the language works. I think this is similar in English, for example. When we have the word can, C-A-N, we just know that that's pronounced can and not pronounced cane, because C-A-N, it's just the way the letters are grouped together, we know sort of what sounds accompany that. And it's just a matter of the same thing in Hebrew, understanding what sounds go with what letters and what combinations of letters. And at this point, I'm not quite there yet in recognizing how all the different maybe intermediary sounds or what those connecting sounds are like, but I am much better at recognizing the letters and piecing the words together, or piecing the letters together. I have a half-decent idea of what the words are. Just an example here, one of the stories I'm reading, basically it's about Michael, who's a cook, and he wakes up at 6 o'clock in the morning. And so the story says, Mickey kam bashesh. Mickey wakes up. Mickey is Michael in Hebrew. So it says Mickey kam bashesh. So Michael wakes up at 6. So bashesh is at 6. Ba is at and shesh is 6. And now shesh is just spelt with 2 shins, I believe is the letter. I think they're shin. And anyway, so that letter either makes a sh sound or a s sound. So at first when I read that word, I said to myself, ba-sh-sh. And it turns out the word is pronounced bashesh. But I was close, right? It's just a matter of figuring out that intermediary vowel sound, and I think that's something that will be much better as I just have more reading, more input. But at this point, what I've been focusing on is the vowels, and at the end of October, I had a much better understanding of the vowels, not the vowels, of the letters themselves and the sounds that those letters make. But the biggest thing was that I didn't have a ton of time to dedicate towards this, and the other thing that I'd mentioned was putting these ongoing videos together to sort of track my progress. Now that hasn't happened. I may record a quick video today just to sort of update on my progress, but it really is that matter of, in order to learn a language, you need to be able to put in time. I haven't been able to put in the time, so I haven't made the progress. Now that being said, I'm making some progress, but it's just a matter of I'm not at the level where I want to be, and that's simply due to the fact that I haven't put the time in. So going forward, That's something I hope to achieve. Second goal is reading. No progress here. This is a standard thing I think for the past couple months that I haven't been reading. I've been hoping to, and I definitely have actually had a few new books. Tim Ferriss has a book called, what's his book called? I'm not sure. It's up here on the on my bookshelf. But he has a new book out. Not Tribe of Mentors. It's the one before that. But whatever it's called. So anyway, I have his book. That's a big, thick book, about 1,500 pages. I have a couple other books. All of these books that I would like to read. It's just a matter of finding the time to do that. Also, exercise. Exercise. There hasn't been a lot of progress going on that. So typically, when I've been thinking of exercise, I mean something additional to simply walking. I have actually every once in a while made an effort. If the weather is nice, I did try and walk between Laurier and Waterloo, or walk back from Waterloo. Typically I drive in and I park at Laurier, but whenever I have to go to Waterloo for classes, I have to get myself there, so sometimes I do walk. I don't really consider that a ton of exercise. It's definitely better than nothing, but typically what I was doing in the past was swimming, which I haven't been able to do this term. It is something I'm hoping to do going forward, or running or biking. Maybe I'll bring my bike and try and bike in the new year, but definitely running was something either outdoors when the weather was still nice, or inside here in the treadmill, but that isn't something either that I've been doing. The one thing, sort of my saving grace, or the one thing I've been trying to claim is exercise, has been playing some ultimate frisbee. Now, we weren't super consistent with this. We probably forfeited 25% of our games just because we didn't have the people available to come out and play and field a full roster. But the weeks that we were able to play, it is a good workout, running for essentially an hour straight. I'm exhausted at the end of it. So I think that sort of counts. Obviously, it's not where I want to be, but there's some progress there. Now, the next thing is co-op. So co-op, during the month of October, there was much progress, a good amount of progress in terms of finding my co-op job for next term. That wasn't entirely what this goal was about. It was more making sure I enjoy my first co-op, but at this point, that's behind me, so now it's a matter of looking forward. So I had, I believe, 7 co-op interviews during the interview period, and it was really a matter of going through, doing those interviews. They were for a wide range of different fields, some marketing, some HR, project management, all these different types of things. Business analyst, and it really was just a matter of me trying to work and apply to all these different fields to really figure out where do I want to work, what do I want to do, and also a difference between private and public sector. I applied to a couple government jobs as well as a couple private jobs. So there really was just that matter of casting out a wide net and seeing what I catch. So with that in mind, I had the co-op interviews. Then there was a ranking process. So after the interviews, the employers rank you, and then you're able to rank them, and then the system works to find the best pairing for everyone. So with that in mind, I didn't have any number 1 rankings. If a company gives you a number 1 and you give them back a number 1, you're guaranteed that position. But I didn't receive any of those, so it was sort of up to chance, up to the system. Now, I put my number 1 ranking towards Sun Life, working as a project management coordinator. That's the job I was most interested with. Or most interested in after going through all the interviews, I should say. And a couple days later, after the system had done all of its work, that was where I ended up being matched with. So that's where I'll be working starting in January. I'll be working at Sun Life in Waterloo, so it's only about 10 minutes from where I live, which is great, much closer than Guelph. Not that I minded the drive. In fact, it was a nice opportunity. I was able to listen to some great podcasts and do all that. And that's something, who knows, maybe I'll miss this co-op, but you know, if I really want to listen to the podcast that badly, I could just sit in the car for half an hour or get to work a half hour earlier. There are definitely many ways to still make that time, but that's where I'll be working. I'll be working as a project management coordinator. So I'm super excited for that. That was basically a big part of October, was filling out all the applications, doing the application process and submitting cover letters and resumes and that type of thing, then going through the interviews, finally getting all the rankings back and then submitting mine and seeing how the system worked its magic and figure out who was paired with whom. As I said, I was lucky. I was able to find a match with the company that I was most wanting a match from, so that was great. So I'm looking forward to that, and it really will be a matter of, come January, seeing what the position is like. It'll be a much bigger company than Adknown, which is where I was for my last co-op, so I'm really looking forward to that. It's also a fantastic building, and as I said, very close by, so I'm really looking forward to that. Now in terms of GPA and grades, as I said, it's been a very busy semester. The month of October, I had 2 midterms, one for HR, Human Resources, and another one for my combinatorics and optimizations course at Waterloo. Both of these midterms went surprisingly well, much better than I was anticipating going into them, but I think it really is a matter of having less time available really forces me to spend the time wisely and be effective with everything I'm doing. I know on an ongoing basis, most of my classes have weekly assignments or weekly quizzes that I have to get done, and it really is a matter of just fitting in these quizzes, finding, okay, I have a half hour here, a half hour there, in between everything I'm doing for TAing and everything else. So really making sure that when I'm sitting down to do these quizzes or to do this work, I'm being very efficient, completing it in a very efficient, very time-sensitive manner, because it really is that matter of I don't have a ton of time, so I have to make sure I get everything done in the time I do have. And with that in mind, I've also spent a lot of time on JDC, doing a lot of JDC training. I do get a course credit for that as well, so it really is a matter of putting in a lot of time, and Sundays are primarily all spent at JDC. We're normally there at 10 o'clock in the morning, and often I don't get out until 4 or 5 in the evening, just due to the fact that we have seminars in the morning and then 3 hours of working towards our presentation, then a presentation, feedback, oftentimes watching another group. So that really is a lot of time there, but it really is, it's been a busy month. October was very busy, but it was also a matter of making sure I was efficient and diligent with everything I was doing, and it seems to be working well. So hopefully I can have this continue forward. The biggest focus now, as I am in December, November has finished, is just exams, focusing on those and making sure. I think there's a big difference between midterms and finals. Midterms, you still have all of your other classes, all of your other commitments, all of these things going on, whereas final exams, they're typically spread out, at least mine are, it's basically one every other day. So I write one, then I have 48 hours to study for the next one. So it really is a matter of making sure I understand the material, know what's going on, and can do well in these classes. Typically the ones at Waterloo are worth 40, 50, 60% sometimes of the final grade. So it is very important to do well on these, but things seem to be working well so far. I am managing, even though everything has been very busy, and I'm looking forward to see what the finals hold. And finally, so the last thing is getting involved. So as I said, TAing has been a much bigger commitment than I initially anticipated. Not that that's a bad thing, it's a great group of people, and I'm very happy to have been given the opportunity to do this. It's something that I would like to do in the future, again, if I still have that opportunity. But it was a lot more of a commitment than I was looking forward to, or than I was expecting. And so with that in mind, that combined with a lot of other things that went on during the month of October meant it was a very busy month. So as part of JDC, one of the things we try to do is get volunteer hours. One of the things we try to do is get charity donations and both volunteer hours and volunteer dollars or charity dollars. So I was helping out teaching a students offering support exam review session for finance. So that was a couple hours, 3-4 hours, plus the preparation. So that was really just a matter of, okay, a lot of things going on. Now I have another day that the evening from 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm working through the session. We only had 7 people show up, so it wasn't a great turnout, no fault of our own. I think that was largely just due to the timing of the event and the structure and the way it was advertised. But we had 7 people come out. Good for them. I hope they found it useful. And it really was, that's something else, working towards that, planning for that, to make sure that we can deliver a high quality session. That takes time. Also, I have on here, I'm just looking at my notes, so I can distinguish what happened between October and November. The other big thing was the business midterm marking. Now this happened midway through October. Just to give a rough timeline for how October went, the first couple of days of October there wasn't anything going on. Then the next week was basically, it should have been reading week, but I was here both doing co-op interviews, and I also spent a full day volunteering with a high school that came in. So we led some workshops on how to do a case analysis, how to effectively pitch and present information. So I was here for a full day doing that. So that was basically the tail end of the reading week, and then the following week was largely just interviews, all my co-op interviews. Then the week following that was the business midterm, and then we had about 2 weeks after the business midterm to sit down and mark 2,000 exams. Now I was in a group of 4 other people, so there were 5 of us in total, so that meant we had about 400 exams each to mark. And because we had a larger group, we had one of the longer questions, and I think that probably took us 20 or 30 hours collectively, so each individual putting in 20 or 30 hours, so probably 100 or 150 hours in total, marking that midterm. Now thankfully I didn't have a ton of exams going on or a ton of midterms going on at that point, but that really did take about a week and a half where I didn't expect to have a ton going on, and really every free moment I was in the TA office marking these midterms. So that was a large dedication of my time, and it definitely took a lot of time. That being said, it's what has to be done. The students need to get their midterms back, but that was definitely one of the biggest things that I spent my time on during the month of October. So with that in mind, I think that's a good wrap up in October. I know it's a couple months now in the past, but I think it's important for me to get the video out. It was overwhelmingly busy. So was November. I'll get to November in just a moment, have a drink of water, and then get back and do the next video. But it really was a matter of struggling to stay afloat, making sure the priorities were effectively laid out, and really just understanding, okay, I have A, B, and C that I have to get done. So just sit down, get through them. There was a lot going on, but that was probably the most critical. So with that in mind, I think I'll wrap up the October video, and I'll be back soon for November. Again, sorry that this was a little delayed, but it's really been a matter of struggling to even find a free half hour to record this video. So with that in mind, as always, thank you for watching, and I'll be back shortly with the November video. Thank you.